I pressed record as my husband whispered strange words in his sleep. The translator app loaded. My blood turned to ice when I read what it said, and who he really was. My name is Elena Vasquez, and I'm a dental hygienist in Phoenix. I thought I knew the man I married, but I was so wrong. The strange words at night. I woke up at 3 a.m. to my husband muttering in his sleep. The bedroom was dark except for the glow of the alarm clock on the nightstand. Marcus lay on his back, his mouth moving, forming words I couldn't understand. At first, I thought he was just having a dream. We'd been married for 5 years, and I'd heard him talk in his sleep before. Usually it was random fragments, something about work, or the grocery list, or asking me to pass the remote. Normal stuff. But this was different. The words sounded foreign. They had a harsh, rolling quality that made my skin prickle. I sat up slowly, careful not to disturb him, and listened harder. He kept repeating the same phrases over and over, like he was having a conversation with someone who wasn't there. My hands were shaking as I reached for my phone, on the nightstand. I didn't know why I felt so uneasy, but something deep in my gut told me this mattered. I opened the voice recorder app and held the phone close to his face. Zawtra my zakończę to, he mumbled. Then something else I couldn't catch. Then more words in that strange, unfamiliar language. I recorded for almost 5 minutes before he finally went quiet. His breathing evened out and he rolled onto his side, facing away from me. I sat there in the darkness, staring at the recording file on my phone screen. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't know what he'd said, but every instinct I had screamed that something was wrong. Marcus had never mentioned speaking another language. In 5 years of marriage, he'd never said a single foreign word. I saved the file and labeled it with the date. Then I lay back down, but I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, listening to him breathe, wondering who the man next to me really was. When the alarm went off 3 hours later, Marcus woke up smiling. He kissed my forehead and asked if I'd slept well. I forced a smile and lied. The Translator app, I downloaded 3 different translator apps the next morning while Marcus was in the shower. My fingers moved quickly across the screen, installing each one and opening it immediately. I needed to know what he'd said. I needed to understand. Google Translate came first, then iTranslate, then Microsoft Translator. I wanted multiple sources, multiple confirmations. If this was going to turn my world upside down, I needed to be absolutely sure. My husband left for work like nothing was wrong. He kissed me goodbye at the door, told me he loved me, and reminded me that he had a late meeting tonight. I smiled and waved as his car pulled out of the driveway. The moment he was gone, I locked the door and sat down at the kitchen table with my phone. My coffee went cold in the cup beside me. I couldn't think about anything else. I opened Google Translate first and played the recording. The app took a moment to process the audio, the little microphone icon pulsing as it listened. Then words appeared on the screen. Russian. My husband had been speaking Russian in his sleep. I felt sick as I read the translation. Tomorrow we finish this. That was the first phrase. Then, the wife knows nothing. And then, proceed with the operation as planned. My hands started trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. I played it again through iTranslate. Same result, same language, same terrifying words. Operation. What operation? I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I came back to the kitchen, I played the recording a 3rd time through Microsoft Translator, praying I'd somehow misunderstood. But the words were the same. Slightly different phrasing, but the meaning was crystal clear. My husband was planning something. Something that involved me not knowing. Something that would be finished soon. I sat at that table for 2 hours, replaying the recording over and over. Each time, the translator confirmed what I already knew but didn't want to believe. Marcus had been lying to me. About the language he spoke, about who he was, about everything. My brother's warning. I called my brother Daniel because I didn't know who else to trust. He was the only family I had in Phoenix, and he'd always been protective of me. If anyone would help me figure this out, it would be him. He answered on the 3rd ring. Elena, what's wrong? I need to talk to you about Marcus, I said. My voice sounded strange, too high and tight. Daniel laughed, but it didn't sound natural. What did he do now? Forget your anniversary? No, it's serious, Danny. He was speaking Russian in his sleep. I recorded it. The line went quiet for a long moment. When Daniel spoke again, his voice had changed. You recorded him? Yes, and I had it translated. He was talking about an operation, about me not knowing something. Elena, listen to me. His tone was sharp now, almost angry. "You're being paranoid. Couples go through rough patches. You've been stressed at work." "I'm not paranoid." I cut him off. "I heard what I heard." The translation was clear. "Translation apps make mistakes all the time," he said quickly. "You're reading too much into this. Marcus loves you. He wouldn't." "Then why did he never tell me he spoke Russian?" Daniel didn't answer right away. I heard him breathing on the other end of the line, and something about that pause made my stomach clench. "Danny, why won't you answer me?" "Just delete the recording," he said finally. "Delete it and forget about this." "What?" "Delete it, Elena. Right now, and don't mention this to anyone else." My heart started racing. "Why? What do you know?" "I don't know anything. I just think you're making a mistake. You're going to ruin your marriage over nothing." But his voice gave him away. He knew something he wasn't telling me. I felt the world tilt beneath me. "You knew," I whispered. "You knew he spoke Russian. You knew something about him." "Elena!" I hung up on him. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. My own brother had just tried to make me delete evidence. He'd tried to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. That's when I realized Daniel wasn't just keeping a secret. He was part of whatever was happening. The hidden documents. I searched our bedroom while my husband was at the gym. He always went on Saturday mornings, like clockwork. 2 hours of weightlifting and cardio. That gave me enough time. I started with the obvious places. His nightstand, the dresser drawers, the closet shelves. I found nothing unusual. Just clothes, old receipts, a box of cufflinks he never wore. Normal husband things. But I kept looking. Because nothing about this felt normal anymore. Under the closet floorboard, I found something that didn't belong. The wood panel looked slightly different from the others, like it had been removed and replaced many times. I pried it up with a butter knife and saw the metal box underneath. It was small, maybe the size of a shoebox, and it had a combination lock. I tried our anniversary date. Nothing. I tried his birthday. Nothing. I tried my birthday. The lock clicked open. Inside were passports. 3 of them, all with different names. All with Marcus's photo. One said Marcus Reed, his current name, the name on our marriage license. Another said Dmitry Volkov. The third said Alexander Petrov. My vision went blurry. I had to blink several times to clear it. There was also a letter, folded in half, sitting on top of the passports. It was addressed to my brother. I unfolded it with trembling hands. "Daniel," it read in neat handwriting. "Transfer completed as agreed. The subject remains unaware. Continue monitoring her routines and report any suspicious behavior. Payment will be delivered next month. DV. DV, Dmitry Volkov." My husband's real name. The letter was dated from 3 months ago, 3 months of my brother watching me, reporting back to Marcus, no, to Dmitry. 3 months of lies layered on top of 5 years of lies. I took photos of everything, every passport issue, every page of the letter. Then I put it all back exactly as I'd found it and replaced the floorboard. When Marcus came home from the gym, sweaty and smiling, I was in the kitchen making lunch. He kissed the top of my head and asked what I was cooking. I smiled back and told him grilled cheese. He didn't notice that my hands were shaking as I flipped the sandwiches in the pan. Neil's confession. I confronted my brother at his apartment the next day. I didn't call first. I just showed up at his door on Sunday morning with the passport photos on my phone and rage burning in my chest. He opened the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking surprised to see me. "Elena? What are you?" I pushed past him into the apartment and held up my phone. "Tell me the truth, right now." Daniel's face went pale as he looked at the screens. He saw the passport photos, saw Dmitry's name, saw the letter addressed to him. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Sit down," I said. My voice was ice cold. "And tell me everything." He sank onto the couch and put his head in his hands. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then finally, he broke. "They paid me," he whispered. "God, Elena, I'm so sorry. They paid me to introduce you to him." My legs felt weak. I sat down in the chair across from him before I fell. "Who paid you?" "I don't know their real names, Marcus or Dmitry or whatever his name is. He approached me 5 years ago, said he needed to meet an American woman, someone stable, with a good job, no criminal record, someone who could help him blend in." "Help him blend in," I repeated numbly. "For what?" I didn't ask questions. "They offered me $50,000 just to introduce you two at that coffee shop. You remember?" I told you I ran into an old friend and wanted you to meet him." I remembered. Daniel had seemed so happy that day, so eager for us to hit it off. I thought he was just being a good brother. I thought he wanted me to be happy. "And you've been spying on me this whole time," I said. He nodded miserably. "They pay me every month to report on you. What time you leave for work, who you talk to, if you seem suspicious about anything. I didn't realize it would go on this long. I thought it would just be a green card marriage, and then he'd disappear. But then you actually fell in love with him." "Does he love me?" I asked. I don't know why that question mattered, but it did. Daniel finally looked up at me. His eyes were red. "I don't know. I don't think he's capable of it." "What is he, a criminal, a spy?" "I don't know. I swear, Elena, I don't know. They never told me details, just to watch you and make sure you didn't figure anything out." I stood up, my whole body shaking. "You sold me out, your own sister, for money." "I know," he whispered. "I know, and I hate myself for it. Please, Elena, you can't go to the police. If you do, they'll know I told you. I don't care what they'll do to you," I said. "You deserve whatever happens." I walked out of his apartment and didn't look back. Behind me, I heard him calling my name, begging me to wait. But I was done listening to his lies, the truth about my marriage. I hired a private investigator named Sarah Chen on Monday morning. She came highly recommended and didn't ask too many questions when I showed her the passport photos and explained the situation. She just nodded and said she'd have answers within a week. She called me back in 3 days. "You need to come to my office," she said. "This is bigger than I thought." I drove there during my lunch break, my heart hammering the entire way. Sarah's office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation place. Inside, she had files spread across her desk. "Sit down," she said. She looked serious, almost worried. I sat. "Your husband, or the man you know as your husband, his real name is Dmitry Volkov. He's wanted for fraud in Russia, money laundering in Germany, and identity theft in the UK. He's been on Interpol's radar for 8 years. The room spun. I gripped the edge of her desk to steady myself. "He used you to get a green card and establish a legitimate identity in the United States," Sarah continued. "The marriage gave him clean paperwork, a social security number, access to bank accounts. Everything he needed to blend in and continue his operations." "What operations?" I managed to ask. "Best I can tell, he's part of a money laundering network. They move cash through legitimate businesses, mostly small companies that don't attract attention. I found 3 shell companies registered in your name. Did you sign any business documents in the last 5 years?" I shook my head. "No, never." "Then he forged your signature. These companies have moved over $5 million through accounts that list you as the owner. If the feds ever investigate, you're the one who'll take the fall." I couldn't breathe. The walls of the tiny office felt like they were closing in. "And your brother," Sarah said gently, "he's been paid over $200,000 in the last 5 years. Bank records show regular transfers from one of those shell companies to his personal account." "200,000, I repeated. My voice sounded far away. "I'm sorry," Sarah said. "I know this is a lot, but you need to understand. Your entire marriage is a criminal operation. You were never his wife. You were his cover." I left her office and sat in my car for an hour, crying so hard I couldn't see. 5 years of my life. 5 years of believing I was loved, that I'd built something real with someone. All of it was a lie. Our wedding day was a lie. Our anniversary trips were lies. Every time he said he loved me, every kiss, every moment, all lies. I felt like my whole life was crashing down around me and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Planning my revenge, I couldn't go to the police without solid evidence they'd believe. Right now, I had passport photos and a private investigator's word. That might not be enough. Marcus, Dmitry, had been careful. He'd covered his tracks. He had fake documents, shell companies, money spread across multiple accounts. If I went to the authorities now, he might run. He might disappear before they could arrest him. And he'd take my brother with him, or worse, leave me holding the bag for all those fraudulent companies in my name. No, I needed to be smarter than that. I started recording everything my husband said in his sleep. Every night. I kept my phone on the nightstand with the recorder ready. Some nights he stayed quiet. Other nights, he talked. And every time he talked, it was in Russian. I had it all translated. He mentioned names, dates, transfer amounts. He talked about shipments and payments and people who needed to be handled. I saved every recording, backed them up to the cloud, and kept copies on 3 different USB drives. I also made copies of all the documents I'd found: the passports, the letter to Daniel, the shell company paperwork Sarah had given me. I photographed everything and stored it in a safe deposit box at a bank Marcus didn't know about. Then I started tracking every penny he'd paid my brother. Sarah helped me with this. We pulled bank records, matched dates, found patterns. Every payment Daniel received could be traced back to the shell companies. It was all connected. I needed to take them both down together. If I only exposed Marcus, Daniel might run or try to cover his tracks. If I only exposed Daniel, Marcus would disappear before the police could find him. They were both guilty. They both needed to pay. So I made a plan. It was risky. It required perfect timing. But if it worked, they'd both go down at the same time, and I'd finally be free. I spent 2 weeks planning every detail. I barely slept. I lost weight. At work, my coworkers asked if I was feeling okay. I smiled and said I was fine, just a little stressed. But I wasn't fine. I was getting ready for war. The setup I told my husband I wanted to renew our vows. It was Thursday evening, and we were eating dinner at the kitchen table. I said it casually, like it was just a sweet idea I'd been thinking about. Renew our vows? Marcus looked surprised. Why? Because I love you, I said, forcing myself to smile. And I want to celebrate our marriage. 5 years is a big milestone. We should do something special. He seemed nervous, but he smiled back. That's a nice idea, sweetheart. When were you thinking? Next month. Something small. Just us and a few people we care about. Maybe at that park where you proposed. He reached across the table and took my hand. You're amazing. You know that. I wanted to pull away. I wanted to scream that I knew everything, that he was a liar and a criminal, but I just squeezed his hand and kept smiling. I already talked to Daniel about it, I added. I want him to be our witness. He's the only family I have. Something flickered across Marcus's face. You told Daniel? Of course. Why wouldn't I? No reason. That's great. Yeah, let's do it. But I saw the worry in his eyes. He was wondering if Daniel had told me anything. He was calculating, trying to figure out if this was a trap. I spent the next 2 weeks planning the ceremony. I picked the date, reserved the spot in the park, ordered flowers. I invited a photographer. I even bought a new white dress. And then I contacted the FBI. Special Agent Williams met me at a coffee shop downtown. I showed her everything: the recordings, the passports, the shell company documents, the bank transfers to Daniel. I explained the whole story from beginning to end. She listened carefully, taking notes. When I finished, she looked at me with something like respect. This is solid evidence, she said. We've been trying to track Dmitry Volkov for 3 years. You just handed us everything we need. Can you arrest them at the ceremony? I asked. Both of them at once? She hesitated. That's not typical protocol. Please, I said. They need to see it coming from me. They need to know that I beat them. Agent Williams studied me for a long moment. Then she nodded. We'll be there. Plain clothes surrounding the area. When we get your signal, we'll move in. Everything was ready. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait the day of reckoning. The ceremony was scheduled for Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. It was a beautiful day, clear blue sky, warm sun, a gentle breeze. Perfect weather for a wedding, or in this case, perfect weather for an arrest. I arrived early, wearing the white dress I'd bought and holding a small bouquet of roses. The photographer was already there, setting up her equipment. Federal agents were scattered around the park in civilian clothes, pretending to jog or walk their dogs or read on benches. Marcus arrived next, looking handsome in a gray suit. He kissed me and told me I looked beautiful. I smiled and thanked him. Then Daniel showed up. He looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. When he saw me, he tried to smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Elena, he said quietly, are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything, I said. The officiant arrived and we gathered under a flower arch someone had set up. Marcus stood beside me, holding my hands. Daniel stood off to the side as our witness. The photographer snapped pictures. We're gathered here today, the officiant began, to celebrate the love between Marcus and Elena. Actually, I interrupted, before we continue, there's something I need to say. Marcus looked confused. Elena? I pulled my hands away from his and stepped back. Then I reached into my bouquet and pulled out the envelope I'd hidden there. It was sealed, labeled, and addressed to Special Agent Williams. "I know who you really are, Dimitri," I said, loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I know about the money laundering. I know about the shell companies in my name. I know about the fake passports." His face went white. "What are you talking about?" "And I know that my brother helped you," I continued, turning to Daniel. "I know you sold me out for money. I know you've been spying on me for 5 years." "Elena, wait," Daniel started. "I recorded everything," I said. "Every word you said in your sleep, Marcus. Or should I call you Dimitri? I had it all translated. I found your passports. I found the letter you sent to my brother. I found the bank records. And I gave it all to the FBI. That's when Marcus tried to run. He turned and sprinted toward the parking lot, his suit jacket flying behind him. But he didn't make it 10 feet before 3 agents tackled him to the ground. He hit the grass hard, shouting in Russian. Daniel just stood there, frozen. He stared at me with tears running down his face. "Elena, please." "You're my brother," I said. My voice broke. "How could you do this to me?" Agent Williams approached with handcuffs. "Daniel Vasquez, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud and money laundering." She read him his rights while 2 other agents cuffed Marcus. Daniel didn't resist. He just kept staring at me. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." "You're not sorry you did it," I said. "You're sorry you got caught." They led both of them away in handcuffs. Marcus was screaming, still trying to explain, making threats. Daniel was silent, his head down. I stood there in my white dress, holding my bouquet, watching them disappear into separate police cars. The photographer had stopped taking pictures. The officiant had left. The other people in the park were staring, and I felt nothing. No sadness, no triumph, no relief, just emptiness. Agent Williams walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing." "I know," I said. But it didn't feel right. It just felt like the end, my new beginning. The trial lasted 3 months and made local news. Phoenix residents followed the story with fascination. The Russian criminal who'd married an innocent dental hygienist, the brother who'd betrayed his own sister for money, the dramatic arrest at a vow renewal ceremony. I had to testify. I sat in that courtroom for hours, answering questions, reliving every moment of the discovery. Marcus glared at me from the defense table. Daniel wouldn't look at me at all. In the end, they were both convicted. Marcus got 15 years in federal prison for money laundering, fraud, and identity theft. Daniel got 8 years as an accomplice. The judge said the only reason Daniel's sentence wasn't longer was because he'd cooperated with investigators after his arrest. I felt no satisfaction watching them being led away in orange jumpsuits. I thought I would. I thought I'd feel vindicated, powerful, free, but I just felt tired. After the trial, I sold everything that reminded me of my fake marriage. The house, the furniture, the car Marcus had bought me. I donated my wedding dress and photos. I closed all the bank accounts and worked with lawyers to untangle my name from the shell companies. It took 6 months to sort through the legal mess. 6 months of paperwork and lawyers and court dates. But finally, it was done. I was free. I moved to Seattle and started over. New city, new job, new apartment. I found work at a dental office near Pike Place Market. The people there didn't know my story. They just knew me as Elena, the hygienist who liked coffee and was good with nervous patients. I made new friends slowly. I didn't date. I wasn't ready to trust anyone like that again. Maybe I never would be. But I learned something important through all of this. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you, the ones who should protect you and love you unconditionally, are the ones who hurt you the most. I learned that family isn't always blood. Sometimes family is the people you choose, the ones who show up when things get hard and stay there. I learned that I was stronger than I ever thought possible, strong enough to face the truth, even when it destroyed everything I believed in. Strong enough to fight back, strong enough to start over. On quiet evenings in my Seattle apartment, I sometimes think about Daniel. I wonder if he's changed in prison, if he understands what he did to me. Part of me wants to forgive him someday. Part of me knows I never will. But mostly I think about the future, about the life I'm building for myself, brick by brick. A life built on truth instead of lies. A life where I don't have to wonder if the person sleeping next to me is really who they say they are. I'm Elena Vasquez. I'm 34 years old. I'm a dental hygienist in Seattle. And I survived betrayal by the 2 people I trusted most. That's my story, and I'm still writing the ending.